All right, welcome. Today, we are going to peek behind the curtain of a major international English exam. We're going to break down what makes it so tough and uncover the really clever strategies students are using to beat it. Let's get right into it.
So I want to start with just one number, 70%. Now, what does that number even mean? Well, get this. It's the weight of one single 2-hour exam on a student's entire final grade for their Cambridge IGCSE English course. 70%. All writing on one paper. I mean, talk about pressure, right? And this high-stakes reality, it creates what we're calling the 70% gauntlet. It's not just a test of your English skills, it's a test of nerve, of timing, and of pure strategy.
Okay, so what is this gauntlet? What does it actually look like? Let's break down the anatomy of this 2-hour challenge.
So as you can see, the exam is really a tale of two halves. You've got reading and you've got writing. The reading section gets a full hour, and then the writing part gets about 55 minutes, split between two different tasks. When you do the math, that leaves you with, maybe 5 minutes for a final once-over? Yeah, every single second is absolutely crucial. So let's dig into that first half of the battle. How are students taught to crack this really complex reading section? How do you prepare for an hour of dense text and super tricky questions?
You know, one of the toughest skills they test for is something called inference. It's not about what the text says directly, it's about what it implies. It's basically the art of reading between the lines, and let me tell you, it's a real game changer.
So look at a question like this. It's not just asking for a fact you can find in copy. It's asking you to get inside the writer's head to figure out their tone, their opinion, their attitude. You can't just find the answer. You have to become a detective and piece together the clues.
So, how on earth do you teach a skill like that? Well, this is where it gets really clever. Teachers have developed some fantastic strategies, and one of the best is the highlighting technique. Students actually read the questions first, assign each one a color, and then go through the text, highlighting the info as they find it. It basically turns this giant wall of text into a color-coded treasure map that leads right to the answers. And this is what active reading is all about. They found that a simple little tweak, just having students jot down the question numbers in the margins next to their highlights, had a massive impact. It stops being passive reading and turns into a full-on forensic investigation of the text. And the result? It's pretty incredible. At one school that really pushed this strategy, they saw a 23% reduction in errors on their practice exams, a 23% drop, just from a smarter way of marking up the paper. Wow. All right, let's pivot now to the second half of the exam, writing. And here, the name of the game is mastering a really sophisticated skill. It's the art of changing your voice, or what academics call register. Basically, success here means you have to be a master of code switching. Students have to write two totally different things. First, an informal email to a buddy, using contractions and friendly language, and then a formal piece, like a report for their principal, which needs impersonal language and really structured arguments. They literally have to be linguistic chameleons. And messing this up is probably the #1 pitfall for students. You see the classic mistakes, mixing up your formal and informal language, writing these tiny, underdeveloped paragraphs, or just totally ignoring the super strict word count. These are the little things, right? But they make all the difference between a good score and a great one. So this all sounds great in theory, right? But does this kind of focused teaching actually work out in the real world? Let's take a look at a case study that gives us a really clear formula for success. So over at the British School of Egypt, teachers started noticing this really specific pattern. Their students, they were brilliant, they had great ideas, but they kept tripping up on the language part. Specifically, they struggled with getting that formal tone right and organizing their ideas in a clear, logical way. So what they came up with was this super elegant, really powerful framework they called the TRAC method. It's a simple acronym that makes students focus on the 4 pillars of great writing for this test: text, type, register, audience, and coherence. It's like a simple checklist for a really complex task. And the results? Well, this chart really says it all. After they started using the TRAC method, the average student score for language, which is out of 9 marks, jumped from a 5.5 to a 7.2. I mean, that is a huge improvement in just one school year. It just goes to show that this kind of targeted teaching really, really works. And that kind of brings us to a bigger, more interesting question, doesn't it? When we break down a high stakes exam like this, we're not just learning test taking tricks. We're actually getting a peek into the hidden rules of communication itself, those unspoken rules about tone and audience and inference that we all use every single day. So, what does mastering this gauntlet really teach us about how we all read, write, and ultimately understand each other?